Does dealing with money feel like you keep running faster and faster, but never actually getting anywhere? In this video, we'll discuss the one metric you must fix in order to solve the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, talk in detail about how to fix it, and give you the tools you need in order to actually move forward. Let's get into it.
Does it feel like most of your paycheck is spent almost before you get it? If this is you, you're not alone. Most people have most of their paycheck spoken for. You might be on this treadmill because the absolute bare minimum necessities take up almost all of your take-home pay. On the other hand, most of us increase our lifestyles as our income increases. So maybe my income is higher, but I'm living in a more expensive home, driving a more expensive car, and eating more expensive food. If I still have money left over after that, I spend it. But then an emergency comes up, and all of a sudden I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel and feeling that paycheck-to-paycheck stress again. This is normal. But you don't want to be normal anymore. You want to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. And for that, the single most important number to understand and improve is your margin. If you bring home $1,000 and spend $999, you have $1 left over. This is called your margin. That's money you can use to save or get out of debt. On the other hand, if you spend $101, now you have a negative margin and you're going deeper into debt. Charles Dickens understood this. I'm converting units to dollars, but effectively he wrote that an annual income of $100,000 with spending of $99 will result in happiness, but the same income with $101,000 of spending will result in misery. Happiness or misery? But why is margin such a powerful number? Because it's a single number that tells you which direction you're going and how quickly. If your margin is positive, you have extra money left over, and eventually this will pile up. On the other hand, even a slightly negative margin means that it's actually your debt that's stacking up. And no matter how long you try with a negative margin, you'll always end up more buried than when you started. Side note, this is why even people with huge incomes can feel stretched for money because they're still operating with a slim or even negative margin. One of the cool things about using margin as your primary financial metric is that you quickly get past the distractions that can fool you about how well you're actually doing. Not only does it give you the clearest, most simple metric to focus on, thinking in terms of your margin is powerful because it frames your decisions against the right scale and context. If you're really living paycheck to paycheck, an opportunity to save $20 might be the difference between going deeper into debt and making progress towards your goals this month. Understanding that helps frame these decisions. On the other hand, if you're already saving thousands of dollars every month, a $5 purchase is a fraction of a percent of your monthly savings rate, and so probably not worth worrying about. And that can be a powerful realization once you get to that stage in your finances. Now, this is where a lot of well-meaning money advice can actually hurt you. You might have heard that you should consider potential purchases in terms of how many hours you have to work in order to afford the thing. Unfortunately, reality is even meaner than that. Most of your paycheck is already accounted for, so you only get to apply the margin to your wants. And now the impulse purchase that represents only a couple hours of your labor might actually represent an entire month's worth of your margin. So the mental hack is to think about your money decisions relative to your margin and not relative to your income. Okay, so if margin is the number that I care about, how do I fix it so that I can break free of this paycheck-to-paycheck pain? Great question. To create margin, you have three main levers: reduce your spending, reduce your debt, or increase your income. My recommendation is to pull all three levers as hard as you can, at least at first. Tactically, your quickest win is going to be reducing your spending. I know, but hear me out. The reason we start with cutting spending is because it's going to be the fastest way to implement changes. Many spending changes you can implement either instantly or as soon as you can find a better option. In some cases, you may need to wait until you can sell something or get out of a lease, but even that is going to be relatively quick. To start, you're looking at things like replacing expensive foods such as restaurant delivery with less expensive but still healthy whole foods from the grocery store. Saying no more often and going without, just for now. Once your money's fixed, you can spend more if you want to. And delaying expensive purchases. The good news is that if your margin is currently quite tight, even rather small changes can make a big difference relative to your margin. Now, if that's not enough and you've already eliminated the fluff or you really want to make progress, then consider downgrading your lifestyle. Basically living like someone who you would think makes less income than you do. Because the thing is, the people that make as much as you do probably are already spending more than they comfortably can. To fully control spending, you'll probably end up needing to track where you actually spend and then make plans for where you will and won't spend in the future. A budget. Personally, I use an online tool called You Need a Budget. Now, as soon as you can, you want to start in on the next lever, paying off your debts. Paying off debt is magic for your margin. Every payment you eliminate immediately creates even more margin and starts saving you money on interest. So if you can apply your margin towards creating more margin, it quickly starts snowballing. Prioritize high interest debts and or small debts that can help you rapidly start freeing up more money every month. If you have any payday type loans, get rid of those as fast as you can. They're a trap. Any small high interest consumer type debts come next. Don't pay a bunch of little payments. Instead, pay them off. Start making a reputation for yourself, with yourself, as someone who pays off your debts. Then we tackle credit cards. Again, pay off the smallest one first and quickly so you start getting a track record. The great thing about paying off credit cards is that you can put as much money as you want towards it every month. Personally, I wouldn't keep a big emergency fund while paying off a credit card because A, having a credit card balance is an emergency, and B, if something else comes up, a true emergency, well, I can use that credit card to cover it. This is not an excuse to use the credit card, just an acknowledgement that it's effectively the backup plan. However, as soon as we get the credit cards paid off, we're going to want to shift gears a little. We still want to pay off debt as quickly as we can to free up more margin, but we never want to hold a credit card balance ever again. So now we're going to save up a little bit more of an emergency fund to the point where we can cover little things we know are coming. We don't know what's coming, but we know something is going to come up. Long term, our goal is to get rid of any need for debt whatsoever. So you can improve your margin by bringing your spending down, or you can do it with our third lever, getting your income up. Now, a lot of personal finance advice avoids talking about how to increase your income. And while it's not always quick or easy, I have found several things that can help. I've gone through a series of large income increases at different points in my career through a combination of doing more work, changing what kind of work I do, and changing what kind of companies I work for. So if you're able to do these things well, you may be able to significantly grow your income over time. The first time I doubled my income was pretty straightforward. I went from working minimum wage or thereabouts for 20 hours a week to working minimum wage or thereabouts for 40 hours a week. The second doubling was the one everybody tells you about. I got an education and started doing more skilled work. But the jumps after that were things that I didn't know about growing up. I doubled my income yet again, moving industries, first to banking and then tech, just going to industries that make a lot of money. Doing your current job, but for a financially prosperous company, pays a surprising amount more than doing it for a broke company. The next big unlock came from working for a higher tier of company, a brand name that had high standards. Then I finally started getting raises that were much more about promotions than about the other factors. But even those worked out better when I also changed companies. Now, I've had plenty of setbacks in my career. I've been laid off multiple times, but knowing where to find the best opportunities has more than made up for the downswings. As you create more and more margin, you'll use it to create a buffer. You want to get used to having some money that's just sitting in your account. This is to cover you in case something unexpected comes up. Eventually, as you pile up more and more money, you'll get to the point where it doesn't matter when your paycheck comes in. You'll have broken that paycheck to paycheck cycle and can finally move forward.